We'll go ahead and get started. For many of us, parenting is not quite as we envisioned. It's not all snuggles and fun, and our children certainly aren't waking up every single day to thank us for all that we do for them, despite all the opportunities we give them compared to those that we had access to when we were children. Instead, if your days were like mine were, they might be full of yelling, sibling fights, screen time wars, nobody listening. In the 30 minutes it used to take me and my kids to wake up in the morning and get to school, 30 minutes, I would feel like I had been to war. I would get back on my bike, get in my car, and I would be exhausted. My chest heavy, trying to catch my breath. I was going, what in the world just happened? It was 30 minutes that I've been awake. There was one point where I had so many timeouts and so many privileges for my kids that I actually lost track of what was going on. My daughter would say, but she has 1 more minute in timeouts. The other daughter would say, and she got TV taken for today. And I actually had no clue. You see, for me, the days were beginning to run together. The joy in parenting was fading. I was yelling at my kids every day. They would yell back at me. I would yell at them for yelling at me. It made no sense. I was turning their tantrums into my tantrums. It was absolutely crazy. By the time they were the ages 3, 5, and 7, I would describe parenting as feeling like a punching bag. I would feel defeated, unappreciated, disrespected, and I was exhausted emotionally, physically, and mentally every single day. And it's not like I wasn't trying. When my first daughter was 2, I bought my first parenting book. It was called Scream-Free Parenting. Obviously, that didn't work.
What's scream?
Scream-free parenting.
No screaming.
After that, book after book, they made sense, but nothing was shifting. I even did all the courses in a positive parenting app. Still nothing. Consulted with friends and family regularly. What to do? Is this normal? Nobody had anything that made any difference. Everybody just agreed. It's really hard. It's crazy. I just knew that I was missing something really big, but I was actually starting to give up too. Part of me thought, maybe it's not something else and I need to stop searching. I've done everything. But then things got worse. My 6-year-old daughter appeared to be heading towards depression. She was losing an interest in playing with toys. And she would say things like, I am dumb, nobody likes me, and I'm bad. Obviously, our hearts broke. My husband and I were trying so hard, and we loved her so much. And I considered us to be an average, normal family. And we were. So I did another search. I discovered parent coaching. Right away, I felt validated. I thought, oh my gosh, there's a career around this? This means there's a lot of people like me. And it might be somebody who has answers. And when I read the curriculum, I have never been so excited about science in my life. That is not my favorite subject. It listed things like attachment science, nervous system science, brain science, and emotional intelligence. And I thought, what does this have to do with parenting? I've been studying parenting for almost 6 years, and I'd never come across any of these topics. And right away, I knew that this was my answer, my freedom for me and my family. So what I want to share with you today is what I learned from working with my parenting coach. At the end, they want to know, what is your big takeaway? Here's mine. Children are widely and dangerously misunderstood. And then I realized it's bigger than that. Humans don't know how humans work. I learned so much about myself that I didn't know. And I understood that nobody understood me when I was little. I didn't understand myself, other adults, and children. And this was creating the problems I was having. You see, most of parenting is rooted in behaviorism. And while those findings are true, if you reward a behavior, it might make them do it again. And if you punish a behavior, it might stop them from doing that behavior again. It leaves out a lot of our really other important things. It affects the children's self-esteem, and it breaks the trust and connection between the adults and the child. So let's look at my idea that humans do not understand how humans work, and this is creating all of our problems. And actually, let's use an analogy. Look at a baker who's trying to make a cake. The cake will not rise if there's no baking soda and no baking powder. It will not rise. And just like children, we cannot raise them if we do not have the proper information about how they work. So testing this idea, think about emotions. What do you know about emotions? I think we can agree that we all have them all day long. Happiness, sadness, anger, our children too, right? And repetitiously, all in one day. So are we malfunctioning? No. Emotions are a part of being human. And actually, they play a really important role. Their responsibility is to let us know when we have a need or a want that is not being met. It's just a message to us. But let's look at the way our society handles emotions. I'll give you something to cry about. Boys don't cry. You want to be angry about that? You can go to your room. You see, our society has a long history of dismissing, guilting, shaming, and avoiding emotions. I want to tell you about the first time I practiced emotional intelligence with my daughter. She was 6 years old, and every day she would hit her sisters, kick them, hurt them, scream at them. And she was used to us reacting to her, not responding. We would say, "You can't do that. You can't hit. Go to your room. Come out when you can behave properly." But this time, I approached her gently, and I scooped her up. And I said, "I've got you." And I carried her to her room, and I gently put her down. And she was yelling at me, "Get out of my room. Put me down." And I said, "I will go. But also, I want you to know you don't have to go through this alone. You guys are going to make me cry." This will make you cry. She froze, all her tantruming, and I think her eyes popped out of her head. She looked at me like I was an alien, like, "What did you do with my mama?" And then she continued to look at me confused, and she connected with my eyes, and she could see that I was attuning to the pain that she was in, and she knew I was serious. She nodded that I could stay. I sat down. I worked on my breathing so I could be a calming presence in the room. And as her breathing slowed down to match mine, I said, "What was that? Anger?" She said, "Yeah." And I said, "What else? Sadness?" She said, "Yeah." And I said, "Oh, that was big." She just nodded, mixed looks between skepticism and like, "Thank God, I finally feel supported." I could see in my daughter's eyes relief and support. And right then and there, I knew that I was on to the answers, that this was right, part of it. See, I took a moment, I let her feel her feelings. I didn't judge them. Let them pass through her body. And then I helped her naming to tame the feelings. Most of us only know bad, good. There's over 3,000 feeling words. And then I said, "Do you want to tell me about it?" And she said, "My sister keeps taking my stuffy." It's what we call stuffed animals. "She's been doing it all day. She's been doing it all week." I said, "Oh, Kaya, if you did that to me, kept coming in my room and taking my stuff, and I kept asking you not to, I would be so irritated, so frustrated." And I said, "Sounds like you had a need for your sister to listen to your words, right? Emotions are just a need or a want. You had a need for her to respect your stuff. She wasn't listening." I said, "Well, it doesn't look like you feel very good. Hitting her, yelling at her, it doesn't look like that worked. So what are you going to do?" Empowerment. Emotions are signaling to us that we have a problem to be solved. So what are you going to do about it? It's her problem. She said, "I don't know." I said, "Can I help you come up with some ideas?" And she nodded. I'm going to fast forward to my daughter, 8 years old. Just last month, she's angry at me. Emotions don't go away, remember, part of being human. She's angry, yelling hurtful words to me, and I responded this time instead of reacting. And I said, "I can see you are so angry. I'm going to give you some space. When you're ready, let me know." She came up to me a couple minutes later. She leaned into my side. That's always my cue to put my arm around her. She goes, Mom, I'm sorry. I was just overstimulated. My 8-year-old can tell me when she is overstimulated. Very proud moment. What a different world it would be if emotional intelligence was the standard in parenting. See, emotions just are a part of being human, but we don't understand the way humans work. Let's look at this when we look at the brain, this idea about understanding the way humans work. What do you know about the brain? We all have one. We can agree it's a part of being human. Left side, right side, different functions. If you're like me, you didn't know much beyond that. But now that I know what I know, it's nearly impossible to survive parenting without being aware of the prefrontal cortex. It's the top part of the brain, and it's responsible for all of our executive functioning, so our advanced thinking skills. And the thing about this part of the brain, it doesn't start forming until the age of 7 and isn't done until the age 25. And this part of the brain is responsible for emotional regulation. So our children are going to need a lot of help with those emotions, those first 7 years, and then even after that. It's not going to be perfect or pretty all the time. Another thing that this part of the brain does is it's responsible for our ability to follow multiple sequence instructions. So when you tell your child, when they get home from school, put your shoes in the bin, put your book bag on the hook, and put your lunch box on the counter, it's very likely they're going to miss something. And so when we say things to them like, why do I have to tell you every day? Why can't you just remember? It's like you don't even care about everything I do around here to keep the house clean. It's really not helpful. They're really just performing within their brain's capabilities. When we do homework with them and they're getting distracted, if we say things like, why can't you just focus? Pay attention. What's wrong with you? It's really not helpful. It's just within their brain's capabilities. The prefrontal cortex is also responsible for reasoning, so thinking through the consequences of an action. So we're meant to make mistakes. It's how we learn. It's not bad behavior when our kid doesn't make the best choice. And the last part that I'll bring up for the prefrontal cortex, even though it's responsible for so many other things, is empathy. This is where we are able to empathize from, the prefrontal cortex. And so when we're trying to get our children to be caring and to say sorry when they are younger and they don't want to, I promise you they are not evil. They really just don't get it. You see, this is where our children develop a lot of these limiting beliefs, like I am bad and I am dumb, because we're constantly judging their behaviors and telling them they should be able to do it differently and more or less. So they start to believe, because they trust us, we're their caregivers, so they trust that what we're saying is true, they're not doing it right. So you see, humans really don't understand humans if we don't understand the brain and the prefrontal cortex. The other thing is, if we understood humans, we would understand the power of our words. You've heard so many common phrases that are said to children here today, and some of these phrases are said all day long, day after day, even decade after decade. And there's other ones too, like when our child spills something and we say, be more careful, clean that up. Or if they interrupt us, you're being rude and inconsiderate. We might say this in front of other people. You see, we hold children to a much higher standard than we hold ourselves or other adults, although we've had decades more experience than our kids have had. The last point I'll bring up about humans not understanding humans, I want to ask you this. If we understand humans, what is it that you care about more than anything else in the whole world? You, your children, it doesn't matter your age, your size. The answer is connection. We care about connection more than anything in the whole world. And it's just in our blood. It's how we are hardwired. It's how we are born. And we care about that with our caregiver more than anything else. But you see, most of us didn't get to, or a lot of us didn't get to experience real connection with that caregiver. So not all of us know what that is or what that feels like. Drs. Tina Payne Bryson and Dr. Daniel Siegel are current renowned doctors, authors, and researchers in the field of child psychology and child development. And they say in their book, The Power of Showing Up, that 4 S's need to be present for connection. safe, seen, soothed, and secure. And our children don't feel safe when we yell at them. Just like an adult, if you're yelled at, you feel attacked. They don't feel seen if we dismiss their emotions and don't teach them how to get their needs met. They don't feel soothed if they're scared of their emotions and feel wrong when they have them. And they will not be secure when they go out into this world on their own if they don't understand their physiology, their emotions, their brain, and how to use kind words to get their needs met. When I started Zen Fam Parenting, it was about much more than starting a company. It was about starting a movement. Because I believe that this information has the power to disrupt the crazy statistics that we're being faced with: depression, anxiety, suicide, low self-esteem, and low confidence in our little ones. I want to invite you to be a disruptor. I want to invite you to be the leader that you and your family need you to be. Because what I know is that we are meant to thrive, and I know that nothing will change unless we do something different. This movement is for you if you want your children to confide in you now and when they are grown. This movement is for you if, as you go through the crazy phases and stages of life, you want a foundation to stand on that is concrete. You have current, proven science and research, processes and strategies that you learn and you teach your children, so that when that tidal wave of emotion hits our bodies, we know how to respond instead of react, and instead of muting it with drugs and alcohol. The easiest way to join my movement is to scan the QR code on your brochure. That will give you access to my email list, my content, and then I have some giveaways for today, including a discount on my coaching program. We are meant to thrive. Thank you so much. Namaste.